figure out their trip in the morning. And then
Sharon, I'm sorry, can I interrupt for 1 second? I forgot to tell people that we are going to be recording this event.
Oh, okay. So the Google Maps was there for them to log their trip. And then Easy Vista was there if we needed to put in any tickets at all. So I had that there, and we will be doing that in the future. And then the team's contacts list. And the reason I created that in here was because I could import this or export it, create a CSV file, and I had all that information ready and available because it's on the Sharepoint site. So anytime someone new came in, I just had them put their information in here, had their motel, same as in Tim's, had their motel, their room, last name, their vehicle, and then anything else we might want, we could put in there. But this way it was available to us and we didn't have to print out those sheets at the end of the day every time somebody new came on board. So that made it kind of nice. Then we could put these imported all into our cell phones. Then what I did, I think I covered all those tabs. So then if I went in, I created a home page in SharePoint. And this just happened to be something I do. I like bells and whistles. So there was the hurricane coming in. And I put the training links because I had a bunch of new people. And then we put the DST tools. This is where we were putting the evaluations and headers and the resources and DTPs. And then here where the events calendar was showing up right on this home page. And what I would do in the mornings is I had this tasks here. So each one of the teams that went out, I gave them their tasks for the day. They just looked at their tasks and they knew what they were going to be doing. And so if they had any questions when we come into the meeting in the morning, they would ask their questions. We'd have our meeting, they'd log out their trip and they were ready to go. And they really liked that, having that there. Then I found an application called In-Out-Board. And it's a free trial. It's a 30-day free trial. So you could use your DR email and all they had to do is go on there and say, Tom Kimball was going to such and such shelter for that day, or Tom was out to lunch for that day. Tom was off for that day. So that worked pretty good because it's kind of a neat application. Everything was right there on that front page for them in the home tab. So they seemed to like that. It was
Sharon,
new to all of us.
Sorry, somebody is asking in the chat, is the homepage a SharePoint site? Is that what you said?
Yes, it is. So basically what I did was I created all this in the SharePoint site, and then I linked the tab to it.
Thanks.
So are there any questions about the calendar or any of these Google Maps? Basically, the Google Maps is also just a website. So you go in and when you create a tab for that, what you do is find website and you just click on that and then you put the Google link in there and then you name it. And it's as simple as that. You don't have to post it to the channel, but that's all you do. It's all in the SharePoint.
Sharon, I have a question about it. When you're working on a virtual DRO, DST doesn't have its own channel, right? You're under the logistics channel. Are you still able to set up all these things inside of their channel?
Well, actually, I kind of did that with the division channel, and I could kind of show you how I did that. Basically, they have, let's see.
So you're setting this up separate from the DRO team?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
okay,
I have this Pacific Division SharePoint site and team site right now.
Okay.
And logistics has theirs, which is, I think it's clear down here at the bottom.
As a permanent team.
As a permanent
okay.
team. And since DST is part of that, so here we are.
Right.
So here is the logistics work group for the Pacific Division, which would be akin to the DRO template.
Okay.
And then it would have DST in that DRO template. So what I did here, since I have a separate DST SharePoint site, I just went in here and linked it.
Okay.
So here we are. And I created Pacific Division DST Home by creating a tab, and then looked for SharePoint right here. And then if it didn't pop up, I just would type it in, but it pops up, and then I choose it and it creates a tab and links it. So when I go into the logistics file, anybody that's in logistics can actually just click on DST and see all the DST files as they should be, but they can also go to our home page, which is separate, and that's where I did all the tasks.
Okay. But all of this is independent of the team that's set up for a specific DR.
Yes. So for the specific DR, you have your DRO template, which is somewhere here. I really need to clean this up. Here's a DRO template. And this is set up. Right now it doesn't have anything in it, so because it is just a template. But I think it's the planning is the one that sets it up. Then oh yeah, here it is. No, it isn't. So they set it up and add everybody to it. So when DST is added, we normally will put in our files, the regular files that we have for the DR, and then I would just link it to a SharePoint site that I created here that I showed you, the DRO Disaster Relief Operations site. Okay. And then when each one of those sites is, when I'm done on that particular DR, what I'll do is create a channel, and I'll move all those files into that channel, sort of archive them. And then I'll clean it all up and delete everything out of there, and then it'll be ready for the next DR that I go on. So it's basically my toolkit.
Okay, so I see you're leaving the DR channels there. So
yeah.
Okay, so one more question about that, and then I'll let you continue with whatever you wanted to say. But how did that work for the people working on the DR to move back and forth between the DR team and this separate team?
At that time, they didn't have the virtual DR.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And have you haven't used this
Not
since then?
since the virtual.
Okay. Okay. All right.
But we did have the disaster cycle services logistics, which is the same thing. And the SharePoint site where DST is supposed to put all of their information.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't know that because they've just been trying to get it implemented.
Okay. All right. So this is something we'll have to keep looking at as things change. I know there's a lot going on from one DR to another. They're learning new things all the time about how to manage stuff. So.
Well, and the interesting thing is it's a great tool that the Red Cross gives us, and you can use your imagination. This is just an idea that I have to help you think about what it is you might want to do with your team when you're out there, or as a team member, what you would like to see your lead put on there.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and the time to think about it is when you're not on a DR, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So,
Definitely.
I think I kind of covered everything that I normally use, things that are important to me.
Okay.
What I did do is created a tab that I don't have on here right now, but that tab was an extra tab that took me directly to the IAP. And when I had to give my report at the end of every day, all I had to do is click on that tab. You can make links in SharePoint so that you can have, for instance, let me show you really quick. and then I'll be done. I'll show you this one last thing. So if you go into your home page into SharePoint, and then it comes over here on actual SharePoint, pops up on a different screen. So I'm going to have to pull it over here for you. So then you can go into your site contents and you can create different applications. And those applications are, that's where I created my contact list. Well, you can also create a separate document library if you have sensitive information. And you can create picture library, which is something you'd want for your people to share, especially at the end of the DR. So you can create this, and all they have to do is add pictures from the DR. And then you can also create what my favorite one is called links, and they're basically quick links. And that's this one. It's just a list of quick links that you have, and you can let's just do this. And then this goes into the documents, and I can create new, where'd it go? Here it is. So I open it up, and here are URLs, notes about that URL. So all I have to do is go in here and put an item in. It asks me for the link, and I can name it. And there are all these shortcuts to anything that you want it to be. And then you can create a tab for that on your Teams site, and you never have to really go into your SharePoint because you can link everything at your Teams site to this SharePoint. So are there any questions?
Yeah, I see a couple of them in the chat here, and then we can ask people if they have a headset or are, you know, not going to cause an echo. They can go ahead and unmute and ask questions. But one question here is, can we set up the ARC cell phones to send GPS to the Google Maps to track DST phones? I don't know what that means. Maybe you do, Sharon.
You know, we might be able to. You never say never. I'm sure there's something out there that, for that. I would highly suggest, if you have not played around in Teams, to go in and create your own team and, you know, have it or make a sandbox. That might be something. Susan, didn't you talk about making a sandbox at one time for DST?
No, we didn't, but that's not a bad idea.
And then you can go in and play around and make mistakes and delete things and, you know.
Yeah, and I have a link that I can look up for you here, where you can, if you don't have your own Office 365 account, you can still download Teams for free and set up personally. And I'll grab the link and put that in the chat where you can do that. If you have a Red Cross email, of course, you can connect it to the Red Cross's Teams account. But for those of you who don't have Red Cross email, there is a way you can still download the app. So I'll get that. Let me see, there was one other question here. Oh, same person, Kent, was asking about the Pacific Division's logistics code to join the team. I think you would have to be in the Pacific Division, right? So,
Yeah.
Kent, if you are in the Pacific Division, I guess you can follow up with Sharon after the event and continue with that. All right.
Yeah,
so,
I am in the Pacific Division.
Okay.
Okay, just write pacificdivision.dst at redcross.org and we'll get you in there.
All right. Who else has questions for Sharon? If you want to raise your hand, then we'll just, that way we won't have everybody trying to talk at the same time.
This is a part of Teams that a lot of people haven't used yet and aren't really necessarily aware of it. I started using it on the SharePoint site because I was fascinated with all the development capabilities. And you can do a lot of different things for, as a job toolkit, you can play around in there. And then of course, in the Pacific Division, I'm just going to go to the home page and give you a really quick look-see of how I did that. These tools are all available to you. And that means two things. That means you have the latest and greatest tools. Use your imagination, and you can make anything work for you when you're out on a DR. You have access to everything you need. There's applications, and at the very least, you can go in there and learn how to develop and learn about those applications. So I highly suggest you go in and play around at least in your SharePoint site, because I guarantee you when you're out on a disaster, you've got a lot of people who are very advanced in Teams, and they're going to be asking you questions about Teams and about SharePoint, especially your planning. They use a lot of maps and things. They're going to be asking you questions as DST. So you need to have those answers. You need to be SMEs on Teams.
Yeah, and then if you're asking about maps, it might be good to get a little bit familiar with RC View too. So
absolutely.
Not that you have to be an expert. We have people who are, and that's part of this whole new RAST system that they're setting up with regional experts. But it doesn't hurt to be a little bit familiar with it as well.
Yeah, that's going to be a great team.
All right, I just put the link in the chat there there's a PC Magazine article that tells you how to join Teams for free if you don't have a Red Cross email. So you can check that out. I also want to share the link for any of you that don't have it for the DST Remote Support Toolkit on the Exchange that includes, among other things, a lot of links about getting more Teams training. But there are other good resources out there as well. So I'll put that in the chat as well. And then I saw Merritt, you had your hand up. Did you want to go ahead and unmute and ask a question?
Just a quick question. When I was playing around, I could see you could develop your own team or set up one, but there's no way to delete it once you're done playing it. You can hide it, but it's still there. Is that correct? Once you create it, it's there forever?
Well, you can delete it, but it's a really good idea because there's so many out there that's deleted and they do show up. Put in a ticket and ask for it to be deleted because they can delete it in the engineering area for SharePoint.
Okay, so the user can't, but it can be asked to be deleted. Okay.
Yes.
So I thought before I make a bunch of teams and play with it, I thought, well, I don't see a way I can get rid of it once I played with it. So thank you.
You're welcome. And I've got a whole list that I need to have them delete.
Sharon, someone's asking, maybe you can just go through this quickly, how to add teams with a Red Cross email address. I know that's in some of the trainings, but if you can just give a short version of that.
I'm not sure what you mean, how to.
If you're trying to set up teams so that you're connected to the Red Cross.
Oh, as far as using your browser or your application. Yeah, if you just close out and restart Teams, it should ask for your credentials. And then when it asks for your credentials, you can put in your Red Cross credentials, or you can go into Outlook. Let me show you if I bring this up. Or you can go into, that's my full blown Outlook. I'll bring it over here real quick. Sorry about that. And up here on your waffles, you can go into Teams that way. And since you're signed in through here, you're accessing Teams with your credentials. So you can do it that way. And once you actually access it with your credentials, it'll probably save it for you.
And will it let you install it from there too? It looks like that's what Michael is asking. He said
yes.
He didn't find it in the Microsoft Store, which I don't think you would because it's part of Office.
Yeah, you can install it from there, and also MicrosoftOffice.com. I I'm pretty sure that's it.
Looks like somebody just shared a link in the chat too. So.
Yeah.
Also, Michael, I know that on that toolkit on the Exchange that I just shared the link for, there's a lot of different training resources there. I know many of those basic Teams trainings do show you how to install it and connect it to your Red Cross email.
And you can go to office.com, and when you sign into office.com, it's asking you for your Red Cross credentials, and you can access it through there. And then you can see all of the different apps that are available to you. And this also has some great material for training purposes. It's a nice site. So.
Yep, and lots of, down at the bottom there, you had a lot of those free apps that can be added into Teams, right? The planner and calendar.
The planner is something really exciting that you can use with your team, but that's kind of a subject all by itself.
Right. But it's something people can explore.
Absolutely.
Once they get set up. So, all right. Other questions for Sharon? Got about 5 more minutes here. So, can we use our Red Cross email to get into Office if we don't have a license? I believe that their Red Cross email should connect them to an Office account, right? Okay.
Yes.
I think it'll be the web-based version, right? Not an installed version, but they can access it like you were showing to go to office.com.
Let me see if I remember. It's been a while, but I believe you can actually go into your email and if someone else knows.
Oh, and Neil Cotton shared a link earlier too. I missed that. Thank you, Neil. For downloading the Teams app. Good.
Yeah, you can go into your settings and it'll tell you what you can download. Somewhere in those settings, you can explore that. It's just been way too long for me to go in.
In your Office 365 settings. Yeah, so I think that's the place to start. Like Sharon said, to go to the office.com and log in there with your Red Cross email. And that will show you whatever you have access to.
And Play with Your Power Automate is a good one, and Forms is a good one. Lucid Chart is very similar to Visio, and that's a free one. Power Apps, Power BI, you can create your own Power BI reports. So there's a lot of really fun things that you can do in there.
All right, Kent is saying you can log into portal.office.com. Okay.
Yep.
And then Heather is asking, can your team access Teams from a smartphone to get daily tasks?
Yes.
So once you have them connected to what you set up on your operations site, then they can also access that from a mobile device.
Yes.
That's cool. And then Neil shared a link that he uses to get to Office. Thank you, Neil. Lots of different ways to get there, it looks like.
I love that.
Which is typical for Microsoft, right? And yes, lots of Teams training videos on YouTube. There are also lots of Teams training videos right in Teams. If you go to the help down in the lower left corner there on the toolbar, click on the help and you'll get to, that's, I think, really the first place I would start, because you know they're going to give you the right information. I am always a little leery of trusting someone else's YouTube videos if they don't know how to interpret things correctly.
Yes, and the newest, latest, and greatest Teams is on there as well.
Yes.
As soon as they update something, they let us know through that portal.
Yep. Now, I will say one thing you do have to be careful of is they will tell you certain things that are available for guests, for instance, and some of those features may be turned off on our Red Cross installation. So just because Microsoft is telling you you can do something, that doesn't mean that we will actually have that feature turned on.
Yep.
But it's a good place to start. And then if you find that something they're telling you in one of those videos doesn't work, then you could, you know, if it's something you really need, then open up a ticket and get them to, you know, say, oh, well, no, you don't have that function. And some of it's turned off for security purposes. So
it's a really good idea for you to go ahead and get a Red Cross email. So when you go out on a disaster, you'll have access to everything you need when you're out there. See a lot of guests.
yes. All right, the normal nonprofit Microsoft provisioning.
Yes.
Yes, I think that's true, Neil. I'm not so sure if it applies to the lower level licenses where you're just getting the web version. I don't know for sure. All right. Any other questions for Sharon? We're going to end here in just a minute or two. But thank you for all this great information, Sharon, and for all of the links and experiences that people are sharing in the chat as well.
Isn't that great?
Yes. All right. I was looking for it. I haven't found it yet, but I'll add this to the chat later. There is for those of you that are here as a guest, if you have a Red Cross email and you want to become a member of this team, there's a code you can use to join the team. And I was looking for it to share it, but I can't remember what document I have it on. So I'll put that in the chat later, and you can use that for those of you that do have a Red Cross email and want to join the team. And also the recording will be available here, usually in about an hour or so. And then if you have any trouble viewing the recording here in the team, I will also upload it to the DST YouTube channel, either later today or by tomorrow for sure. And once I do that, I always put that link for the YouTube version here in the team, as well as sharing it in Volunteer Connection in the group share. That way people who are not members of the team can still view it on YouTube. The name of that channel is DST Training Videos. So if you just do a search for DST Training Videos, you should find that channel. It includes, I created a separate playlist for all of the Virtual Skill Builders recordings. And then there are also playlists from some of those demo videos we did a couple years ago about how to unpack and assemble and unpack and repack various pieces of equipment. So those all have their own channels out there as well. All right. Well, this has been a great, inspiring talk today, Sharon. I'm sure you've got lots of people thinking about how they could use Teams in the future. And I know this discussion is going to continue. We've got people who have been out on some of the virtual DRs just in the last few weeks. And next month, I believe we're probably going to have, we've already been talking to him, Lee Mari is going to share his experience in one of the virtual DRs that was just going on in North Carolina. So we'll have him on showing a slightly different view than what Sharon was talking about. Oh, Neil just shared the code for joining the team. Thank you, Neil. I couldn't figure out how to look that up while I was trying to keep my main screen open for the recording. So, all right. So thank you all for attending, and thanks again to Sharon. We will hopefully see you all next week when Neil is going to talk to us about how you can subscribe to the specific event calendar so that you can get those events copied onto your personal calendar.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to that. All right. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye.
Sharon or Susan, can I ask a question?
If it's quick.
Yeah, I was in a training yesterday with sheltering for North Texas in preparation for the hurricane season. And most of the discussion was how to use Microsoft Teams. And the lead presenter had no answers at all. I asked him to contact DST. How do I coordinate him, and would it be you or somebody else?
What I would do is, because we are not providing training for anyone other than DST, that's not our role.
Okay.
Disaster Learning Solutions is the ones that should be training other activities and other groups. And they have posted a very similar toolkit to the one that I shared for you. If you can look, tell him to look on the main COVID page in the Exchange, and they should see that there. I think it's called, they went back and forth with the name on it. I think it's something like Remote Work Resources or something like that. I would send him there first to look on the COVID compendium, I think they call it now, and it should have a link for those remote training resources that includes a lot of links for Teams training.
Okay, and
Okay.
I
Yeah,
came
and then
about
if you
a minute
can't
late,
find
and
that,
it seemed
if you
like
can't,
the same question that was happening. I have a
Yeah.
redcross.org address, but I come in as a guest and I can't do stuff.
well, I think Sharon explains how, that you have to connect your Teams account to the Red Cross email account. So, and that is also covered in a lot of those trainings that are linked in that toolkit. So if you haven't gone through a full Teams training with anybody, I really recommend that everybody do that. We're not doing any live ones right now. Charlie did a whole bunch of live trainings in June, but right now we're relying on those recorded trainings that are in that toolkit. All right.
On that YouTube site that you gave, or on the
No, on the
toolkit
Exchange.
in the Exchange.
It's on the Exchange. Yep.
Okie dokie. Thank you much.
All right. Bye.